The U.S. housing bubble has finally burst, and real estate experts are warning that from coast to coast property values are set to face a sizable crash following the massive drop in home builder stocks last week, and lower than expected demand for mortgages in May. The housing market collapsed is being aggravated by the dramatic surge in interest rates, which are fueling fears that a recession may be near. Affordability is only getting worse, and renters are suffering too. This month, the median listed rent for a one-bedroom apartment rose above $2,000 for the first time ever. At this point, millions are already behind on their rent payments, and according to a new Bloomberg report, a tidal wave of evictions has begun today. We have compiled the latest updates, stats, warnings, and forecasts that reveal the dire state of America's new housing crisis. But before moving on, please support us by leaving a thumbs up on this video, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our future videos. In a backdrop of soaring mortgage rates and rising treasury yields and borrowing costs, potential home buyers are facing the most expensive housing prices on record. But as U.S. consumers grapple with higher prices for food, for gas, for energy, roughly 19 million prospective buyers have been priced out of the market since January, according to a BlackKnight analysis of Fannie Mae data, and the softening demand has started to deflate the housing bubble much quicker than expected. In fact, that led real estate brokerage company Redfin to slash 8% of its workforce. In an interview last week, Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman noted that as demands started to cool off, it has become clear that the company has hired way too many real estate agents over the past few years. I feel this deep responsibility for the fact that we had too many people coming into this home buying season. We have been hiring at a berserk rate in 2020 and 2021 just to keep pace with the housing market, and then everything went soft very quickly and found ourselves idle in many departments, so we're at the right size now, Kelman said. On top of that, housing starts in May dropped by 14.4%, and given that mortgage rates are hovering around the 6% mark, it doesn't seem likely that the demand will climb back up to where it was a year ago as prices become too out of reach for many Americans. Kelman highlights that homes that would typically receive a couple of dozen offers last year are not getting a single offer anymore. There is a huge change when you go from 20 offers on one house to 5 offers to 1 offer, and what we're seeing is that 1 in 4 homes are now being discounted, and that indicates that some properties aren't getting a single offer whatsoever. He exposed over the past 2 years, the median home price has surged by 44, now sitting above the $400,000 mark. In May, home prices jumped for the 124th consecutive month, and when higher mortgage rates are added into that equation, the median pay for a median home has actually increased by shocking 50%. The executive added that's the product of interest rates and home price increases, and both have shot through the roof, so it's really just a question of how much dry powder the consumer has, especially after their 401k has been waxed. He continued, rents are skyrocketing too, causing overall housing affordability to collapse at its fastest rate on record and resulting in a lot of pain for financially trained renters. In an interview with NPR, Brandon Schwieters, a 40-year-old single dad who lived for 2 decades in Port Orange, said he was forced to move this year because his landlord said she wanted to sell the place he was living in. So Schwieters started looking around for other rental units only to get another shark. I found a house that I was living in posted for rent for $2,000, and I was paying $1,400, he said, adding that his landlord said she knew that was out of his range. Schwieters was already using half of his salary just to pay for rent, but as he ran out of options, he bid on a place listed at $1,750 and was told he had a deal, but the next day, the agent said sorry, someone else had just offered $200 more. Sight unseen. I've lived in the same area for 20 years. I know what these houses were renting for and what they were selling for, but what's occurred over the last 2 years, it's like boom destruction, he stressed. In the first 3 months of 2022, the period when the rental market typically calls apartment occupancy actually hit an all-time high of an extraordinary 97.6%. As a shrinking pool of people can afford to buy a home, demand for rent continues to grow, but as the head of economics and industry principles for Real Page J. Parsons explained, there's a severe shortage of rental housing at all price points and in essentially every city across the country. Asking rents for new leases climbed 15.2% nationally, and far more than that in many places. Rents are up more than 30% in Austin, Seattle, and Cincinnati. Los Angeles, the median asking rent is $3,400. Even in formerly affordable cities such as Nashville, it's now $2,140, up 32% from last year. And this month, the median listed rent for an available one-bedroom apartment rose above $1 a month, and that's for the first time in United States history. These rent hikes are effectively serving as evictions by landlords who know very well that their tenants will have to move as a result, enabling them to rent out the newly vacant units to new tenants at significantly higher rates. Needless to say, the sharp price increases for housing is squeezing millions of Americans who were already bearing the brand of inflation and rising prices of consumer goods costs, of course, that have been passed along to consumers, while some of the largest corporations in the world experience record profits. In Boise, Idaho, one of the most overvalued markets in the country, resident Tara Sickinger Curl said she experienced a $240 monthly increase in her rent this year, from $1,710 to $1,950 a month. After initially renting her apartment for just $1,510 in 2019, this is a huge stretch, considering I work 3 jobs and donate plasma just to make ends meet, she revealed, also outlining that she cares for 2 teenage daughters and isn't able to downsize to a smaller apartment. Is it wrong to want the same quality of life for my children they've always had? Tara, seeking a call, asks those who can still find ways to pay for the roof above their heads are among the privileged, because according to a new Bloomberg report, more than 8 million Americans are behind on rent payments and at risk of facing eviction in the next couple of months. Eviction moratoriums have expired in August 2021, effectively removing the last piece of legislation that was acting as a safety net to keep people off the streets. With no federal eviction moratorium in place, 8.4 million Americans, or about 15% of all renters who are behind on rent, are at risk of being evicted. The new figures were part of a Census Bureau survey conducted between June 1 to June 13 of households. Bloomberg reported the survey found that 3.5 million households were somewhat likely to leave their rented spaces, homes and apartments, within the next 2 months because of an eviction. Most of these folks are of the working poor class and situated in large metro areas, from New York to Atlanta, where the cost of living, including shelter, food, and fuel, has skyrocketed. It noted about 6.7 million households said their rents increased on average $250 a month over the last year. The increase doesn't sound like a lot, but remember that many of these folks are being crushed under the weight of the highest inflation in 4 decades. Their credit cards are maxed out and savings are drained as wages failed to keep up with soaring consumer prices. Experts explained the latest data shows that a tidal wave of evictions is underway. The Princeton University Eviction Lab shows that eviction filings have already surpassed pre-pandemic levels, shooting up by 80 in March, another 47 in May. Meanwhile, mortgage applications to purchase a house collapsed by 21 last month, and as more would-be home buyers are pushed out of the market, the chief economist at Moody's Analytics, Mark Zandi, is warning that the U.S. housing market is on a verge of a coast-to-coast price crash. Zandi said his firm expects home prices to sink dramatically in key competitive markets that are the most juiced or overvalued. And Larry Bowe tells you, the senior real estate advisor at Solomon Partners, a housing market crash is inevitable and has already started to happen. Motel emphasized your average home buyer cannot afford to pay the same amount as they could, so prices need to adjust. A new core logic analysis of the nation's largest regional housing markets found that among the 392 regional housing markets it tracks, at least 45 markets had a greater than 50 chance of seeing local home prices decline over the next 12 months. That's a 73 increase from last month, when only 26 markets fell into that camp. The probability of a price decline has intensified in recent months as mortgage rates continue to surge and consumer confidence has been shattered by high inflation and fears of recession. The number of markets for more than 50% probability of price decline has nearly doubled, pointed out Selma Hepp, deputy chief economist at CoreLogic. Housing affordability has been on the decline for years. It's only getting worse at this point. More and more Americans do not believe now is a good time to purchase a home. According to Fannie's Home Purchase Sentiment Index, the percentage of survey respondents who say it is a good time to buy fell to 17 in May, while the percentage of those who say it is a bad time to buy rose to 79. Overvaluation and speculation, 2 key elements required to maintain the growth of a housing bubble, but home price gr. The U.S. housing bubble has